Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be looking at Avalanche. Now, this video is going to be more of a quick recap than anything. If you watched the last video about a month ago, it's basically the same chart that we're looking at today. And we're just going to go over the key points that I made last time and see if they've played out in a similar way, which, spoiler alert, they kind of actually have played out pretty similarly. So getting straight into it, we can see we have a lot of lines here that correlate to each other. We have these two orange ones, which represent a resistance, a support, and then a resistance for Avalanche. You also have the two halving years that I've put in. Again, we can see that Avalanche hasn't had a full cycle worth of data yet. So we're still in uncharted territory, but we can pull from things that have happened during a similar time frame, as in the year before the bull run, and things do seem to be playing out similarly. Again, we had a much longer bull run this year, and before the last bull run, stuff was a lot more volatile and condensed. So potentially we could have sort of 4 years worth of data over 3.5 years. I could consider that being a valid theory, and we're going to try use it today again to find some correlations in what potentially could happen. We also have this white, which is what I would call like bull market territory. Every time we've broken above this line, we've sort of been in a bull run really, and that's the only time we've really broken above. You could argue we broke above it a few weeks ago. We did. We had weekly closes above it, but for me it just, well, obviously it teetered out and we went below. And this does also play into the fact that we have a big bull run every 4 years and a small bull run every 4 years, and both of them are spaced out roughly 2 years between each other. We also have just this less meaningful slow trending up line that I think will probably play out. I think we have seen our last time for Avalanche to go into this deep value zone. I think probably next cycle we'll put in another leg up. This might be our low around $40, but again, that's very far out speculation at the moment. Getting straight into the TA, we can see that if we do look at these orange lines that we compared first off, we can see we draw this one from the local high that Avalanche puts in from its launch before it drops quite drastically. And then we can see it meets it as resistance for a few weeks once it pumps back up during the 2021 bull run. It does break above, but it does, funnily enough, come right back down. And even though it does break below it a bit into this deep value range, it still does act as a support, then a resistance, and then a support again. And we can even continue to drag this along, and it does sort of present itself a bit more, but not really as common. The main thing that I wanted to use for this was during the halving year, the bull run, the pre-bull run year, is when this took place predominantly, and it went into the bull run year. Now for us, I would probably make the case that we'll see a similar move here, and so far we've seen that this level acted as a resistance here originally. We broke down below, spent a good amount of time below. We have a strong rally up, where we meet a resistance. We spend a couple of weeks there, and then we have another strong leg up where we get rejected, again at this white level, interestingly enough. And then potentially we see a retracement to this orange here, this resistance. And so far that does seem to be playing out quite well, and that's what we said in the last video. Again, that was about a month ago, so we would have been close to Christmas time. I think it was just after Christmas when I recorded the video, when we come back to this white support at the time, but technically resistance. And I said we'll probably dip below. I, at this point, thought that the bull run that we'd been having had gone on for too long and was too unsustainable. Again, I spoke a lot about the macroeconomics surrounding it and just how it wasn't feasible for us to have a bull run. Now, I could potentially be totally wrong and we might explode up out of this and go into a bull run. This is just what I personally think based on previous performances, and I do honestly think we will come back to this orange line and potentially dip below. I would probably put the low in somewhere around this close at around $20. I mean, we can see if we zoom in as well, the bull market support band is somewhere between $26 and $23. And I can definitely see Avalanche coming back to that. And if we take a look at what happened here, it broke below its bull market support band when it went down to this resistance. If we continue to carry on, the bull market support band will likely trend up and the price will likely trend down, and we could break below. And we saw here it was only a break below for a few weeks, and once we did come back to this support, we did bounce off and basically go into another phase of the bull run. Now, I don't know if that will necessarily play out this time, but I would have a strong inclination that we will come down to at least the bull market support band, and most likely this support. Whether we break below and spend any significant amount of time below that line, I'm not the guy to tell you that. Nobody is. I personally think we will probably dip below a little bit, like we saw here. Like, no support line is perfect if it's over the weeks, if it's over a period of weeks, and surely you will have wicks and closes below and above. So for me to say that it won't go below this line is stupid, to be honest with you. But I think we will go back down to that line, basically. So potentially you might want to look at picking up some Avalanche around that price range. Again, I can't see us revisiting this area, but you never know. COVID Mark II might sweep the globe. Who knows? Hopefully not. Anyway, taking a look at the BTC pair on Avalanche, we can see again the same chart as before, and just a few things that I would like to point out. First of all, we have this strong downward move that you could argue we experienced over here since 2022, basically end of 2022, which I would probably agree with. It was probably our bull run, our bear run year. Now this wouldn't line up for our bear run year. This was our halving year, but again, I think a lot of stuff last cycle was jammed into a much shorter time frame, and I don't think it was a bear run year, but I think we can pull a lot of information from this, and it has played out a very similar way. Again, a very similar way how our US dollar chart has played out. A lot of correlations at Avalanche's inception are now seeming to play out currently in today. And if, again, it does continue to play out how it has, because it has been playing out extremely similar to how it has before, we are most likely going to see a strong pullback on the Avalanche Bitcoin pair. And maybe we see a double top like we get here. And if we zoom in, we can see potentially a double top possibly forming out. I mean, it's kind of uncanny how similar a lot of this stuff is. We have 2 strong weeks of down, then we oscillate for a little while, 2 strong weeks of down, we've oscillated for a little while. So we could form a bit of a fishbowl here. Again, a double top to only retrace back down to our lows. In terms of where I think we could retrace down to, I think this green zone is also out of the question now. And if we take a look at what happened last time, we can see that after our first sort of 2 weeks where we put in our initial explosive leg up, that's where Avalanche initially traced back down to. And even though it went a bit below, let's draw a quick line here just to illustrate. And I'll change the color to white just so it's more clear. We can see Avalanche gets this initial leg up and oscillates around this range to break up above. If we zoom in to maybe see what that could look like for us now, I would probably put it here, and I will actually draw this line just to show that's what we could expect to play out. I will draw it here, but I also think we could see a bowl sort of double top play out. There could be a bit of steam left in the bulls and they might force the price up a bit on Avalanche and other altcoins. Who knows? But for me personally, I don't think your buying opportunity has gone. I still think you can get into these altcoins and even, well, maybe not Bitcoin, but I think you can get into a lot of these altcoins at a very nice price still. And especially if you've been holding majority Bitcoin for a while, you might want to wait before you convert that to Avalanche just yet. And again, just, you know, we see that this drop here was about a 60% move. If we take a look at what a 60% move from the top would do to Avalanche, it would bring us down to these lows here. And we can see that when we put in this support here, we actually did dip below it, but not too far below. And if we take a look at how far this white line is, it's about 53% down. If we take a look at how far the white line is from our top here, it's about 45, so it doesn't line up perfectly, but definitely is interesting to look at and see how they are playing out quite similarly. Again, with the bull market support band, we can see it comes from a strong downward movement that we get here, followed by a strong recovery. Now this data is a bit warped because it's brand new, but shouldn't affect it too much. We see that we do have a sharp turnaround on the bull market support band, where the price obviously recovers in a short period of time. And then when we dip down below the bull market support band, and this is some extreme sell-off that takes place on the Avalanche Bitcoin pair, we do go down to this white level. Now, if we do put in a bowl, it will bring the bull market support band up, and we can see that it actually came above where the low of the bowl was. So potentially we could see the bull market support band rise up to 7,700 Satoshis, somewhere around there. And by the time that gets there in a few weeks, we could see a strong move down. Again, it doesn't have to play out the same way. That might not happen at all. We might just go straight down from here and bounce off this. We might go straight down to here and continue to trend down. We might not even make it down to this level. There's a lot of, you can never predict these things with certainty, but it's just the fact that so far Avalanche has played out extremely like it did back in 2020 and 2021 so far. It is just interesting for me to see how we do, again, put in this top that Avalanche also seemed to put in on its US dollar pair. And its US dollar pair and Bitcoin pair don't look too dissimilar. We can see we actually came back to this top when we had our initial move up, like we saw here. I just think the volatility will be a lot more reduced now that Avalanche is a much more established altcoin, like we do see with a lot of altcoins over time as they grow and their market caps become bigger and their liquidity becomes more. And if we do see a potential return to this support/resistance, we could see a move of upward 600% on the Bitcoin pair, which is definitely a good thing to have. And if we take it from potentially where we currently are, where I'll say we're at the bottom of the bowl, last cycle we had a move of just under 400% from this point. So again, if you are moving into Avalanche at the moment, it might not be the best time, but it still opens yourself up to the potential gains you could have against Bitcoin. And again, I think we will start to see over the next few months a lot of altcoins starting to pull back away from Bitcoin and getting a bit of their own value back. And we do often see this with the halving. It isn't shown out on this chart, but it is obviously very soon, sort of end of April time, which is less than a few months away. It's about 3 months. So it will be very interesting to see what happens then. That about wraps up the video, guys. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Comment down below what video you want next, or if I missed something. Take care and peace.